In Prague, Czech Republic, a girl named Jana came to her father in his room. Jana looked happy that day. Jana's father, Yakov, gently treated his daughter. Then he gave her a necklace with Jana's mother's wedding ring. Yakov then said that there were only two women he loved. The first was his wife, Jana's mother, who had died, and the second one was Jana. Hearing this, Jana was both happy and touched. Jana then changed into the dress her father had asked her to wear. But when Jana went to her room, someone barged into Yakov's room. That person was an assassin who instantly killed Yakov without any fight from Yakov. At the same time, Jana, who was about to show that she was wearing a dress, was surprised to see that a mysterious person had killed her father. The frightened Jana quickly tried to get away from there. Unfortunately, the assassin shot Jana's arm until it bled. Moments later, Jana luckily managed to escape and call for help. Jana saw her uncle coming, but when Jana's uncle asked for help from his men to catch the assassin, sadly the assassin had already left from Jana's house. Then the scene moved to 7 years later in Slovenia. There was a man who was aiming at his target from an abandoned building. His name was Morgan, and he was a young assassin. Morgan looked serious and focused on his nighttime stalking. At the same time, someone was talking on the phone. It was Caldwell, who was calling Morgan at the time. Caldwell told him about the identity of Morgan's target, who was a fairly old man. Caldwell said that the man's name was Luca. Luca was a mobster who specialized in human trafficking. Luca was the master of human trafficking in Eastern Europe. Luca controlled all the police by bribing them to make his business run smoothly. Morgan, who heard that, just kept quiet because he kept aiming and looking for the right time to shoot Luca. But a split second before Morgan pressed the trigger, a bullet whizzed towards Morgan. The bullet grazed Morgan's neck and wounded him. Therefore, Morgan's shot missed and hit Luca's glass. Luca's men realized that someone wanted to kill their boss. Then they searched for Morgan's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Morgan with a wounded neck looked for the sniper who shot him. Moments after Morgan looked for the mysterious sniper, he finally decided to leave the place. Morgan realized that Luca's men were chasing him in that building. Then Morgan slowly approached Luca's men and defeated them one by one. After he made sure some of them were dead, Morgan decided to escape by jumping. Then he got into a car and drove away from there. Unluckily, someone shot the car's tires and Morgan's car flipped over. Luca's men who saw it immediately went to Morgan, but they were surprised because Morgan was not there, as Morgan was hiding. At the same time, the one who shot Morgan also shot Luca right in the head. Morgan, who knew it, became confused because he thought that the mysterious shooter was Luca's men. However, when Morgan completed his mission, he returned to the hotel to treat his wound. In addition, Morgan also called Caldwell to complain about his mission this time. Morgan said that someone was targeting him, but that person also shot Luca. Caldwell, who heard Morgan, didn't care because he said the most important thing was that Morgan was safe. Then Caldwell told Morgan to come back as soon as possible because Caldwell had a new mission for Morgan. In another part of France, there was a woman who was a member of the National Intelligence Agency named Falk. She explained about Luca's death, which was allegedly killed by an assassin. Then Falk told her subordinates to find out quickly about Luca's real assassin. Meanwhile, Morgan returned to Rome, Italy. When he arrived at his apartment, Morgan played the CCTV footage around his apartment to see if there was anything suspicious during Morgan's absence. As he relaxed for a while, Morgan decided to meet his girlfriend. Morgan went to a school because it turned out that Sophie was a teacher. Morgan waited happily by the school door. When Sophie found out that Morgan was back in Rome, she was very happy. They hugged and expressed their longing for each other. Morgan and Sophie spent the night together. After he had had enough of Sophie, Morgan went to see Caldwell. Morgan expressed his concerns about Luca's assassination mission. Morgan was feeling upset because he was almost killed. Therefore, Morgan said that he wanted to retire from the assassin world. However, Caldwell didn't allow Morgan to retire because Morgan was the only young assassin who worked in Caldwell's organization. Other than that, the reason Caldwell didn't want Morgan to leave was because there was a mission with a new $6 million contract. Moreover, he explained that Morgan would face 6 assassins who were also participants in that mission. Morgan would have to kill them if he wanted to get the prize money. Morgan didn't get tempted by the money. He still wanted to retire. Caldwell, who knew that, said there were only 3 reasons for an assassin to retire. The first reason was that the assassin found God in his faith. The second reason was because of a woman. The third was because the assassin had died. Meanwhile, Morgan wanted to retire as an assassin because Sophie colored his life. The next day, Morgan and Sophie spent time together as they went shopping and strolling. In the evening, when he was about to take Sophie home, someone targeted Morgan on the way. Luckily, Morgan was able to finish off the man, who turned out to be an assassin as well. Sophie, who saw that Morgan easily killed people, was scared. She then questioned Morgan about who he really was and what he had done. However, Morgan insisted on discovering the identity of the mysterious person first. Later that night, Morgan went to Caldwell and asked him to show him the latest mission contract. Morgan then learned that the person who attacked him earlier was Morgan's target. Morgan was confused because it turned out that his new mission had started. Caldwell explained that the man's name was Alex, who was ex-military. Since Morgan had killed Alex, $1 million would be sent to Morgan's account. Then Caldwell informed Morgan that there were 5 contracts with different targets that Morgan had to complete. The second target would be Ryder, who was a psychopath. The third target would be Pablo Martinez, who was an expert in poisons. Then the fourth target would be Yuko. The fifth target would be Demer, who was a sociopath. The sixth target was someone who had no known photo and identity. Additionally, each target's death must be proven by a cut of the target's finger delivered in post box number 115. After he got directions from Caldwell, Morgan went to prepare his weapons. Meanwhile, there was a woman who killed a target named Demir in prison. The woman named Falk, who looked cruel and was not afraid of anything. Then in a place, Inspector Leon picked up a package that contained a finger cut. He gave the package to a forensic expert to find out the identity of the finger's owner. He then met Jana, whose father Yakov was killed by an assassin 7 years ago. Jana easily got the video of Alex's murder, but she didn't know that the assassin was Morgan. After that, Inspector Leon headed to his apartment, but suddenly Morgan appeared and pointed a gun at Inspector Leon. Morgan firmly asked about who exactly Leon was and what Leon's relationship with the mission intended for Morgan, but Leon claimed that he was just a connector. He was assigned to make sure the identity of the body that was killed was the real target. Inspector Leon didn't tell who paid him, but he said that he got the order via email with the code Maat. Hearing that Morgan could only be stunned and confused by everything that happened. Then Morgan decided to find out who Maat was that Inspector Leon was referring to. Morgan then went home and found out about it in a secret room in his apartment. Morgan finally found out that Maat was the goddess of truth. Shortly thereafter, a phone call came into Morgan's phone. The person was the woman who had killed Demir in prison. The woman named Falk then asked Morgan to work together to kill the targets and kill the mastermind behind this whole situation. In addition, at the end of the conversation, the woman gave a number that Morgan could call. Falk even gave the location of Pablo Martinez or the next target. After that, Morgan suddenly remembered Alex. He then looked up who Alex was, and it turned out that he knew Caldwell. Seeing a photo of the two of them made Morgan suspect that Alex was actually working in Caldwell's assassin organization. Morgan, who was unsatisfied with the answers he concluded himself, then decided to meet Caldwell. Morgan finally learned that Caldwell had worked with other targets before. Caldwell admitted that he was the one who gave Morgan's location while hunting Luca. Caldwell also gave Morgan's location to Alex. Hearing that, Morgan felt disappointed and upset. Morgan never expected Caldwell to set him up, even though Morgan considered Caldwell like his father. However, this made Morgan eager to find out the mastermind behind all this. Morgan then went to Barcelona to find the whereabouts of Pablo Martinez. On the way, Falk called and explained that all the problems started when one of the assassins working with Caldwell killed an oil mine owner. A man named Marius hired an assassin to kill his brother Yakov, Jana's father. Therefore, Jana wanted to take revenge for her father's death, but she didn't know who the real assassin was. So, Jana made a contract with a list of assassins who worked with Caldwell to kill each other. A while later, Morgan arrived in Barcelona, precisely at the house of Pablo Martinez. Morgan was about to kill him, but it turned out that Pablo had a daughter. This made Morgan undo his intentions. Morgan then pointed the gun slowly and approached Pablo Martinez. Instead of fighting, Pablo Martinez invited Morgan to talk. Pablo was a retired assassin who chose to live peacefully with his daughter. Hearing that, Morgan chose to explain that it was not only Morgan who was looking for his whereabouts. Morgan added that there were other assassins who would be looking for Pablo. After the conversation, moments later, there was a woman who broke into Pablo's house. The woman was Yuko, who wanted to kill Morgan. At first, Morgan was able to fight back, but unfortunately, Morgan had to lose. Thankfully, Pablo Martinez came and shot Yuko to death. Morgan then chose to help Pablo Martinez to live with his daughter. Pablo Martinez suggested that Morgan should cut off his finger so that Pablo would be considered dead and not be targeted. After that, Morgan took Pablo Martinez's finger cut and let him live in peace. When he was about to return to Rome, Morgan saw the CCTV footage of his house on his phone. Morgan saw that there was someone who infiltrated. The man was Ryder, who was also an assassin. Morgan then immediately returned to Rome. At the same time, Falk came to Caldwell, who was sleeping. She then injected poison into Caldwell. Falk turned out to be an assassin who also worked with Caldwell, just like Morgan. Falk's arrival was to request to delete her identity. Apart from that, Falk wanted to ask for an identity or file about Morgan. Reluctantly, Caldwell gave the file on Morgan to Falk. Before Caldwell gave the file about Morgan to Falk, he gave Falk's file to Morgan. A few moments later, Falk, who got the file about Morgan, cruelly killed Caldwell. In the morning, Falk, who also worked at the National Intelligence Agency, contacted Morgan. Falk said that Ryder was targeting Morgan's girlfriend, Sophie. This happened because the sneaky Falk shared Morgan's file with Ryder. Hearing that, Morgan panicked and immediately contacted Sophie. He told Sophie to hide. Sadly, Ryder has arrived at the school where Sophie works. Then Sophie, who knew that a mysterious person was chasing her, quickly hid. Soon the police arrived, so Ryder didn't dare look for Sophie anymore. At that point, Morgan rushed to Sophie, who was frightened. Sophie questioned Morgan about who he was and what he did for a living. Morgan finally managed to explain that he was an assassin who killed evil targets. Sophie, who heard that, was surprised and worried about Morgan's life. But Morgan was more worried about Sophie. So later that night, Sophie was sent away from Rome to a safe place. Meanwhile, Inspector Leon received another package in the form of Yuko and Pablo's severed fingers. Meanwhile, Morgan drove to Ryder's place to kill him. When he arrived, he immediately shot poison into Ryder's neck. Moreover, Morgan asked if he was the one who killed Yakov. But Ryder had no idea about Yakov. Therefore, Morgan concluded that Ryder was not the one who killed Yakov. At Falk's place, she used her identity as a member of the National Intelligence Agency, BIN, to prepare to kill Morgan. Falk made a speech as if she was the savior. There was also Jonna, who didn't realize that Falk was actually the assassin who killed her father. Morgan was then surrounded by Falk's troops. He then thought of escaping by burning and blowing up the building. Morgan went to the roof and made the building explode. At first, Falk and her men thought Morgan had died inside, but after realizing something was wrong, then she saw that Morgan stole an ambulance. Luckily, Morgan was able to get away from that place. Moments later, Morgan was trapped on the bridge as Falk's troops surrounded him there. The clever Morgan then crashed the ambulance into the edge of the bridge and jumped. So, Falk thought Morgan died in the ambulance explosion, even though Morgan swam by using the oxygen tank in the ambulance. Without hesitation, Morgan rushed to see Inspector Leon. Morgan explained all about Falk. He said that Falk is also known as Vicky or Voss. Falk was the sixth assassin who worked with Caldwell as well. But so far, Falk's identity has not been discovered because Falk also worked as a member of the National Intelligence Agency. Morgan then invited Inspector Leon to cooperate by reporting that he found Morgan's body to Falk. This provoked Falk to meet Inspector Leon. At the same time, Morgan, who was there, immediately beat Falk. However, Morgan, who was very emotional, didn't instantly kill Falk. Then the police came and Morgan ran away from there. As a result, Morgan failed to kill Falk. Then Morgan decided to approach Jonna. Morgan said that Jonna had been deceived by Falk. Morgan explained that Falk was the assassin who killed Yakov, Jonna's father. Falk had pretended to defend the truth in front of Jonna. Falk also took all $6 million for herself. Moreover, Falk also manipulated the deaths of all the targets so that the money would come to his hands. Hearing that, Jonna slowly realized that she had been deceived by her partner all along. Jonna then said that Falk was dead. But Morgan was not convinced. He went to find the truth of the information. Morgan decided to go home. He asked Sophie to return to Rome. Morgan, who was not sure that Falk was dead, feared that Falk would kill Sophie. But a few moments later, Morgan got a call from Falk. It was true that Falk wasn't dead. Falk said that she had Sophie as a hostage. Falk placed Sophie in the bathtub. Morgan, who found out, immediately went to Sophie's apartment. Morgan, who didn't think clearly, then barged into the apartment. Unfortunately, his foot caught on the thread of the bomb trigger that was connected to Sophie. Falk then offered two options, which were to stay at the door and let Sophie drown but the bomb wouldn't explode. The second option was whether Morgan would choose to move but the bomb exploded and die along with Sophie. At that crucial moment, Inspector Leon came and pointed a gun at Falk, but he didn't kill Falk. Meanwhile, Falk quickly turned around and shot him. Luckily, Inspector Leon didn't die. He crawled out of the bathtub and took Sophie out. After Morgan saved Sophie too, he who felt relieved then chased Falk. Morgan then shot Falk without hesitation in the chest. After the incident, Morgan and Sophie chose to live happily in Portugal. They enjoy being together by riding in a car. But ironically, Falk was not dead because one shot did not make her lose her life. Falk woke up from her coma in the hospital.